I already made this video. I filmed this whole thing yesterday. Then I watched the footage and I spoke way too fast.
Welcome back, friends. Jessie here. So, when I was a kid, self-explaining is absolute motivation.
So, now we're re-recording today, and the coffee hasn't hit yet, so this won't be fast. Cool. So I've been really excited for this video because I am an avid journaler. I think journaling changed my life, and I wanted to get on here and share what I consider to be the 3 different kinds of journaling, because once you realize that there are different kinds and how they work, I think you can use that information to not only improve your journaling practice, but also improve your life. The thing is that it took me a long time to actually become a journaler. When I was a kid, we would often go to the dollar store. My mom would sometimes say that we could each pick out one thing. And sometimes I'd grab like a doll or a sticker pack, but more often than not, I would grab a journal. And these were like the cheapo, like, you know, overstocked journals, but I loved it. And I would bring it home and I would write my entry in it. Half the time it was in 3rd person because I wanted to keep a running account of the life of a 9-year-old for future historians. But I'd write 1 or 2 entries and then never touch it again. And I have like a pile of journals like that now. I so wanted to be a journaler. I wanted to be someone who kept a diary. But it wasn't until college, actually, that a friend of mine showed me her journal. And she showed me how she wrote in it. And I looked and I realized, oh my gosh, there are different kinds of ways to journal. The kind of journaling that I was trying to do wasn't working for me. But instead, by using this method, I filled up my first journal. I've got it right here. I wrote in cursive a lot so no one could read over my shoulder. But since then, I've been an avid journaler. I think that journaling is a wonderful tool for organizing your thoughts and organizing your life. But there are different kinds of journaling, and one or several of them may appeal to you. So if you've been trying to keep a journal and you're not really sure how or where to start, I want to provide some perspective on some different things that you could try. So let's just jump into it. I think of journaling as something that has 3 different categories. So the first kind of journaling is recording. So recording is all about recording events in the past. It's like the quintessential, "Dear diary, this thing happened today."
Dear diary, my food dish is now only half full. It is obvious that I will soon starve to death.
And this kind of journaling is wonderful if you are someone who wants to be able to look back on your life and have a record of where you've been. And the thing is, it doesn't even necessarily need to look like a traditional journal. I think that a lot of scrapbookers are doing the same thing. If you keep a scrapbook of photos and, you know, ticket stubs of things you've done, that's a form of recording. Or even like my mom uses her Facebook account as her recording space. So she, throughout the year, posts what's going on in her life, she posts photos, and then she uses a third-party company to export all of that into an album that she can keep. So this style of journaling can look like a lot of different things, but I think where a lot of people maybe get tripped up is losing motivation, like I did when I was growing up, you know, trying to go at it, saying I'm going to do this thing every day or every week, and then you just lose steam, and then every entry begins, "Dear diary, sorry I haven't talked to you in months." And I think the reason for this is because there's not a lot of value in it in the short run, especially if you have like that long-term view. It's hard to say like, oh man, I'm so motivated to create this thing that's gonna be useful to me like in 10 years. Instead, I do think that it's valuable to think of this style of journaling as something that can be useful to you right now, that the act of recording is inherently valuable. There is something to slowing down and observing things that happen to you. I do think that it's especially useful during times when every day seems to feel the same, such as right now. I think it's a great way to notice time passing, to notice that there are things happening, that you do have differences in your days. I think that's really valuable. In fact, I know that there's some scientific basis as well as far as our perception of time passing. The more things that we notice, the slower time seems to go. And so if you're worried about missing your life, maybe it's time to slow down and start journaling about it. Do you like my mug? This is my husband's, but I always steal it because it's so cute. So the next type of journaling is the kind that absolutely changed my world, and this is what I call processing. So journaling for processing is anything that you are doing to write out your thoughts and emotions to work through them. Practically, it can look like stream of consciousness writing, where you just write whatever comes to mind. It can look like brainstorming or making lists or following journaling prompts. Basically, it's great for getting anything out of your head and onto paper so that you can start working through them. Because if you're not doing this, you're either going to be processing your thoughts within your head or by talking to other people. And both of those can be perfectly valid. However, I know that for me, if I leave my thoughts just in my head and I try to sit there and just mentalize through it, my thoughts get really jumbled. And so journaling or even talking out loud sometimes and then writing down my thoughts about that later can be a really good way to get those thoughts out of my head and actually understand what I'm thinking about. And also for me, you know, if you are someone who tends to turn to others for advice really quickly, as soon as you feel unsure, you start asking your friends what they would do. Journaling is so important because it teaches you how to work through problems on your own, to think for yourself, and I think that is an incredible skill that is so important to have. And I say this because that is like 100% me, and I found that it's so much more useful to at least do one round of journaling with a problem first, so I can clarify what questions I might want to bring to others if I do find that I need extra input. I feel like I'm talking faster as I go. It's like the coffee's kicking in. So the final type of journaling is probably one that you are familiar with, and it's planning. So if recording is about the past, and processing is about processing your thoughts in the present, recording is all about the future. I was so excited when I realized that. So a lot of people love physical planners, or maybe you've seen bullet journals, which are essentially just like DIY super flexible planners. But physical journals aren't the only place where planning happens. You might use a calendar or reminders on your phone or post-it notes stuck all over the house. Like, we all have our own systems. And while that probably doesn't fall into the traditional definition of journaling, I do think that it's extremely valuable to bring a journaling mindset to whatever planning system that you have. So what I mean by this is having a defined system that you use, regardless of where it takes place, but something that you reference every day, every week, to make sure that you are on track with what you need to get done. So for example, my system right now looks like Notion and Apple Calendar. So on Notion, I have a weekly view that I can see all of my tasks that I've assigned to every day of things that I need to get done, and I check in with that every day. And then on top of that, I have my calendar, which is where I keep my meetings. I'll sometimes use it for time blocking if I have a busy day and I need to see exactly how things fit into that day. And then of course I'll set reminders on a lot of those events so that nothing slips through the cracks and I get little heads ups about things. So these are like the three main categories of journaling, and if you do any of these things, like, I think you can call yourself a journaler, but recognizing that there are different styles, what this means is that if you have been struggling to keep a journal or struggling to start one, maybe try one of the other styles, or try one that you're doing already but in a different way. So for example, if you've been trying to do recording and you've been trying to keep like an official recorded diary of every entry every day, try something different. Maybe you just do 3 bullet points at the end of each day, or even at the end of each week of just some major events that happened. Or you could use Instagram as a digital scrapbook. And yes, there are companies that will print your Instagram account into a book so that you can have a physical copy if you want it. Ultimately, I feel like journaling can look like a lot of different things and still have that that journaling mindset. And what I mean by that is like that intention of sitting down and working through something or recording something or planning something. It's kind of about that, like, I'm going to write this down and I'm going to plan it out and I'm going to do the thing. Does that make sense? I know it's a little amorphous. That's just the way that I think about it. Ultimately though, I hope that this gives you a little bit of perspective on the different kinds of journaling out there. If you want to get deeper into the world of journaling, it is a wonderful place. It has led to wonderful things in my life of just being able to finally get things out of my head and understand what I'm thinking and feeling at any given moment. It is definitely a topic that you'll see more of around here, so if you want to stick around, we'll go ahead and wrap with that. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.